Hi again, everyone, and welcome to another edition of Charger360, telling the stories of the University of New Haven. I'm J.W. Stewart, along with Bruce Barber, and our guest today is Anthony Goodfellow. And Bruce, where in the world did you find Anthony, who is making his television debut today, by the way?
That had to happen sooner or later, I suppose.
This is incredible.
And this time, not the news.
So we've got a Charger360 scoop. This just in. No. So Anthony, it was just an average day at the University of New Haven. I'm at the radio station, WNHU, and I get an email from Anthony. And Anthony says, I'm the new studio manager here at the university, and would you like some of our used equipment?
That's not strictly true.
All right, you take it then.
What happened was that I was told that there was always a relationship between the radio station and the music department.
Which there is.
Which is true. It's like it's always been the case. But also, I wanted to clear a bunch of stuff out of my office. And then I was like, all right, so a plan was hatched. And using my delightful personality.
It is a winning personality. And yeah, we talked about that for like 3 minutes. Mm-hmm. And then Anthony mentioned that he is you were nice, you were very humble.
Yeah, I slipped in.
But he's a DJ of some renown.
Okay. Yes, I was told when Bruce was booking guests for this episode, he says, I got a working international DJ, and my first thought was like international man of mystery, like Austin Powers.
It's very similar. It's very similar.
So what is a working international DJ, and maybe more importantly, how do you get that job?
I guess up until the pandemic, pretty much every weekend I was getting on planes around Europe, doing a show, coming back. And during the week, I would write my own music, or I'd work on other people's projects, remixes, film soundtracks, all these kind of things. And eventually, it just, you do one, you have some success, it snowballs, and then you become in demand. And then, I never got to you can get really, really high up in that game. But I was working, and I could pay my rent, and that was enough for me. As long as I could keep writing music and keep traveling, then I was pretty happy.
Yeah, and you see how he's saying also, and you're so humble that you're just working there like, oh yeah, I wrote some. He as they say now in the parlance of the industry, drops new music from time to time, scoring films like actual films. Incredible.
Yeah, well, work is work as far as. Honestly, when I was young and I first had the opportunity to go full-time and to quit my terrible data entry job and then just make music full-time, I thought, this isn't going to last. So I'm just really going to go for it. And this is going to be my job. I'm going to treat it as a job. I'm going to wake up in the morning, start work. And it bode pretty well for me overall.
And so now we are so lucky to have you here at the University of New Haven. And our students get to kind of experience firsthand the lessons you've learned in these many years of touring and making music and scoring films.
Yeah, it's a real fun process to explain exactly the beginnings and ends of making a record. And all of these skills can be applied to many, many other fields also. So, but also it's super fun. You have students come in and they're full of ideas, but they don't really quite know how to put it all together, and then you just help guide them through that process, and they feel like they get a lot out of it.
What are some of the films that you've worked on?
Mostly, entirely horror movies.
Okay. So what's the music like for horror movies?
Terrifying.
Yeah, well, it's not all that happy-go-lucky music.
The last project I worked on, I only contributed a few bits of music, but it was this sort of culty 60s acid rock piece of music with very childlike melodies for a dance sequence when someone becomes possessed.
And this is great. And I think this is really important to the creative process, is riffing on the works of others. And Anthony has intimated to me that he's a big Miami Vice fan.
I am a big Miami Vice fan.
Back in the day.
Very much so.
And so talk about that, which is actually that was a show, and a friend of mine, oh, am I dropping names here? Fred Lyle was and I've got to get the two of you
Yeah,
together.
we
He
should
was in
make it
charge
happen.
of all the music for Miami Vice back in the day, and that was kind of this watershed moment, I feel like, in marrying sound and music.
And aesthetic. I
And
think
it-
like,
that's
I think
exactly
that the
right.
aesthetic and the sound goes together, and I think that's something that really resonates with people. Especially, there was a scene that I was sort of involved with that, which they call now synthwave. They didn't at the beginning. They call it synthwave now. I guess the peak of that sound and aesthetic was that show Stranger Things. So if I say Stranger Things, you have an idea of what the music sounds like, but definitely the people who came before, it was definitely that like very 80s synthesizers, very inhuman drum machines, and Miami Vice bright colors, and that's the fun part of it. I feel like a lot of shows from the 80s, like I don't know, maybe they were on something. Who knows?
It was the 80s.
It was the 80s.
I'm going to have T-shirts made. Maybe they were on something. We're going to make some bank. Right now.
So I feel like there's a lot of experimentation going on there then.
So in addition to scoring films, you're writing music that are not associated with the films too? You write songs or perform songs?
I write songs, I play in bands, I remix people, I mix other people's records. I just keep myself working, It's I just had an album come out a few weeks ago, and I had a 12-inch dance single come out like a couple of weeks before that. And I actually have another album coming out, not next month, but the month after, beginning of June. Which
See-
everything happens at the same time, and then I can't control it.
This
But
is
it's,
so awesome, and this is what I always tell people about the University of New Haven is really kind of right? J-Dub, me, you, we all are working or have worked in our fields, and then we get to kind of talk to the next generation of whatever, producers, performers, broadcasters, television, sports personalities. So where is the state of the art? And mentioning state of the art, what's great is we've got some amazing studios right here on campus, but what are you kind of speaking to this generation of creatives about with the most excitement?
Well, I guess for me it was when I was younger, because I studied composition. I didn't study anything to do with the technical side of music. I had to learn that by doing. And the thing that I wish that I'd had when I was at university was I wish someone had come in to say, hey, you don't have to be mega famous in order to work in this industry. You can just do it. And I feel like that was, when I realized that when I was, 28 or something like that, it was very liberating because I realized that I wasn't, I wasn't on the front cover of the magazine, but I could pay my rent. And I was thinking, why did nobody tell you this? They tell you this when you're young of like, oh, you got to be David Bowie, you've got to be Kate Bush or someone like hugely famous and influential. When really, if you just keep working, there's enough money in the industry to keep going.
Well, I feel like that's so much what's going on now as a result of digital technology and
Absolutely.
the internet, right? Like you can have a smaller audience, but in a lot of ways they're more engaged sometimes.
Yeah, it's the 1,000 fan theory. Do you know the 1,000?
No, tell me.
Well, I know that from a basic mathematical standpoint, if there's 1,000 people across the world, which isn't a lot, who are willing to give you like $20 a year, that's $20,000. You're not gonna buy a house, but you could probably rent a flat somewhere. Like it's like very achievable in that, in that terms.
Yeah.
But like getting that 1,000 fans is like that's the work.
Right, right.
So you have fans all over the world.
Yeah.
You're going on tour soon. Tell us
Well,
about that.
I'm doing some of my first European dates. Like I'm starting to age out of touring a little bit, because, as you can understand.
Just hit the glass ceiling.
No, it's like a lot of late nights and like.
He hit the
lack of
glass
sleep.
floor.
I hit the glass floor. The glass puddles. But no, I'm going to go to Berlin and Amsterdam in June, and I'm going to perform there in some clubs, and then I'm going to fly back to Hartford and probably sleep.
Well, you know, so this has been, and I miss you at the WNHU studios.
Yeah, it's been a
but
shame.
We started off the top of the episode talking about Anthony when we were discussing the leftovers from the
Yes.
recording studio. You ended up saying, hey, you know, could I do a radio show? And I said yes. And so now you've been studying for a graduate degree,
Yes,
correct?
I'm also a student at
He's a
University of
student.
New Haven.
Wow.
But he's not doing the show anymore, which bums me out. But my office is right across from our studio, so I just loved watching you doing this amazing show where it was like you were curating music for the first hour, and then you had a guest mix.
Yes.
And he was really corresponding with people in real time. They were listening from WNHU in West Haven, Connecticut, like all over the world, and then the second hour is a guest mix from somewhere. Talk
Yeah,
about
we
that
had
a
guest
little.
mixes from Eastern Europe, like South America, one from Japan, one from Russia. Like we had a lot of international people contributing mixes to the show. It was a really fun thing to curate for. But now I don't have time anymore. It's like
I'm over there. I'm like, what? Where
like-
are you?
It's like it was like all week I was like finding music and finding tracks, making connections with people,
Yeah.
trying to get people to hand things in on time.
Yep.
And
It was
and
called Noibody.
Noibody. Well, we're still going as a collective.
Okay,
Like,
yeah,
we're
yeah,
still
talk
doing-
about the collective a
The
little bit.
collective Noibody is a group of us who were just kind of missing that kind of electronic community that we had. In like my wife, of course, I met my wife when she was living in New York. I was living in Berlin in Germany, and we were always surrounded by electronic music people. And I think the pandemic kind of, made people kind of dissipate a little bit across the states. And so,
People go to their homes and weep,
Yeah.
yes.
pretty much.
So trying to bring people back together and like trying to form these communities in the New Haven area was like very important to
Yeah,
us.
it's
And
great. He was bringing in people from the collective
Yeah,
to be
we-
on
so
the
we could
air.
all-
Jen,
Jan,
his wife.
Eric, who did work, Ben, of course, like who's,
Yeah,
does all the-
amazing.
who does
Great
all the
group of
visuals
people.
at our events, So
And he's working to build the scene. That's what we have to do, right?
if it's not there, you have to make it, So
What can you tell us and our viewers about the music department here at the University of New Haven and its history and kind of where it is now and some of the studios that you're teaching in over at Dodds Hall?
well, the recording program's existed since the 1970s. It's like really a long-running, quite well-respected recording program. I think we actually have one of the last remaining fully analog studios, including 24-track tape recorder, big analog console. We just had a brand new analog console put in when I started, which was 2 years ago, I think. So we also have a state-of-the-art post-production studio, and we're about to install a Dolby Atmos system for mixing in like modern surround sound. And we have a little third studio, which is like our electronic production studio, which is full of analog synthesizers and drum machines and wonderful effects. And
In this day and age, why would you have analog? Why would you want students to learn on that?
well, people pay the money to use analog gear. Like those things have not gone down in price whatsoever.
And it's a very warm sound,
It's a
Jacob.
very
Okay.
warm
It's
sound.
very warm.
I mean,
Analog.
if we're talking
It's
about
warm.
Like you.
Like
that's,
Yeah.
that's what he's going for, yeah.
He's talking in his analog voice, isn't
I'm
he?
analog. You're hearing me in analog right now. It's very warm.
It is very warm.
Bruce did promise an entertaining episode. I think he's
Right?
delivered. I got to ask, speaking of entertaining,
Yes.
all DJs that seem like have an entertaining name or a cool nickname. Now, you're not just DJ Anthony Goodfellow, right? You
No,
must have
I
a
am
name.
not.
Like, what's your handle?
Oh, Anthony Maiovi. I'm a fake Italian. I'm a genuine fake Italian.
Man of mystery.
Yeah, I told you. Yeah, international DJ, international man of mystery.
That's
the modern
exactly
day
right.
Austin Powers.
That's so great.
I mean, it's a lot of drinking for free, so yeah, it's very similar.
No,
It's
it
very
is so great to have you here at the university. I'm serious.
No, I'm pleasure.
It's-
I'm really glad we could work it out.
Yeah, and we were, we got to collaborate. So we had a meeting yesterday, and so you came on very last minute, and we really appreciate it.
No problem at all.
Excellent, thank you.
Yeah, Anthony Goodfellow, it's great to meet you. Thanks for being here
Likewise.
on Charger360.
My pleasure.
And that'll wrap up another edition of Charger360, telling the stories of the University of New Haven. For Anthony, for Bruce, I'm J.W. Stewart. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.